Bet it up. What we got here, y'all? 72 drop top Chevelle. She's pretty clean, pretty clean. Took an axle out, figured out what length we need the axles to be. These axles are 30 and an eighth. It's an 8.5 that's in there. We're going 3.5 inches shorter on both sides. So that goes down to 26 and 5/8. But we're doing 9-inch axle ends, housing ends. So it have a 9-inch bolt-in style axle with the big bearing and seal. Super drop boxes, Viking coilovers, double adjustable control arms, anti-roll, the super drops, billet anti-roll, aluminum coilover brackets. And yeah, let's see. What the hell is that, y'all? 24 by 11, 12 overall, 8-inch lip, MTW. We had them on there. These cars got a fat ass lip on the body, and then there's one spot in the tub back here that sticks out a little bit. So you gotta narrow it in just a little bit more. These cars, you don't need to notch the frame, don't need no tub work. Maybe just a little bit of flexing right there, a little bit of flexing back in the corner, just a little bit. But yeah, front wheel, the 2-inch lip, and that's 24 by 9, 10 overall. It's got a real small tire on there, 255/25. I want to clear these fenders without, having to pull them out or all that. But I think he might change it because I know I could fit that 255/30 tire on here easy. So I gotta change it. So I got some more stuff buttoned up on the Oklahoma Cutlass. And then we're waiting for the axles for this. And it's staying 10 degrees warmer in here, and that thing's turning on every 15 minutes. And then, like I said, it's just that little heater, which is only at 45,000 BTU, so it's only got two burners. And like I said, I got another 12 cans coming up. Spray foam insulation, I'll get that whole area above the door and that whole door right there. But I've already made a big ass difference in here. Anyways, yeah, so bare brakes going on the back. So 2.5-inch offset. But yeah. So with this, be able to got the axles figured out. So those are on the way. And yeah, put a couple more days into this. Then I can switch them around, put this on the lift. This car is super clean. Super clean. But be able to put this on the lift, figure out, because we're doing the 9-inch end, so then you gotta subtract that off the housing too. So depending on the difference in axles, when the axles show up, take that much off the housing, but where that control arm box is, I'll be able to take out, as far. So that way I don't have to spend all that time sitting there cleaning up the stock control arm mount and all that shit. I'll be able to cut the housing, the whole end off, and grind up a little bit of it to put the 9-inch end on there. Yeah, 72. 72. She clean. Clean. The top is decent, so we'll probably replace. I don't know how many miles on this thing. Underneath of the hood. I mean, obviously the car was probably done, but it's clean. Air clean. The color, I like the color. What are they consider that? Canary yellow? Would that be canary yellow? Alright y'all, let me put some more work into all this, and probably next time you see this next part of the video, this thing will be up on the lift. Alright y'all, we on this 72 Burt Chevelle. Knocking out this front suspension. All that bullshit right there. We got the bare brakes, the hub style right there going on. Big ass brakes, big ass brakes. Wait. Over here, in here tripping off shit, everything. Oh yeah, you guys see it, SS. It's coming for y'all. A-body gang. 8-inch lid, big ass brakes, full suspension, some drop boxes, get rid of these tailpipes. I mean, it didn't get tailpipes on it because the way that I set up the coilovers and all that and the anti-roll. Tailpipes will go on it. But yeah, we in here, working. We got all this to go on. But yeah, next step, get the rest of these control arms off of here and get the QA1 arms on here. And then the spindles and brakes, we'll get all that on. Well, the coilovers too. Be back with some more of that business. Bet it up. Back on it. All right, so tubular upper, control arm. They come with a bump stop on the arm, and the car has a big ass bump stop that is on here. So you get rid of the bump stop on the car, keep the bump stop out of the arm until you get everything set. Then once you get your ride height and everything set on the ground, you can put your hand up in there and you can twist the bump stop back in. The stock one, I don't know what I'm doing, but the stock one, that's a big ass rubber bump stop. So anyways, the hub style brakes, this is a bare brake kit. Comes all packed, all the bearings in there. Got all the brackets. Everything got greasy from fast work. We were buffing on it yesterday, so grease everywhere, grease on the arms. With gloves on. He put the high energy grease in here, whatever the hell it's called. Which I never do that because when you're all said and done, you just put a little grease in the zerk fitting. But anyways, front wheel up on there just for Monica, just looking at stuff. We set it down and it tucks. Viking coilovers. Like I said, you get the sleeve that goes in the lower part of the coilover that changes it from a 5/8 hole to a 1/2 inch hole. But this kit was from Alex Straight Chassis, so he gave us, you know, with the kit, the sleeve and the bearing setup. So this is an A224 shock, which is A body under the Viking. A body and G body are the same shock. The spring is a SP. So 10 SP 550. It's an SP because of how small it goes up in there. So if you use the ones for box Chevys and G bodies, which is an RP shock or spring, it's fatter up top. So then it could slop around or move or whatever. But this fits the finger section up there in the top. But this is what's for Chevelle A body. So there's those numbers for y'all. 550, this thing shouldn't need to be turned up. Should not need to be turned up for shit. And then like I said, when I put the thrust bearings in there, you gotta have the thrust bearings. Thrust bearings in there, the shock setup comes with a shim, and then I put the 2 shims and the bearing plate, the needle bearing plate in there. So you get 2 shims on top before the bearing plate and then the shim on the bottom, so it rolls easier. This edge of the spring right here doesn't crush down in there. So it makes it a lot easier to twist up to set everything. I didn't want the sway bar on yet, but we put the sway bar on. Anyways, all this shit's tightened up. This is the spindles that came with the car, which had the disc brake setup on there. So it wasn't a drum setup. And then, you know, this bracket for the bear. You got your left and right, this and that, blah, blah. We don't want the caliper to the front. We want the caliper to the back. And this is front steer, which either it being front steer or rear steer. You want the caliper to the back. You don't want the caliper to the front. If you put the caliper to the front, which you guys have seen it, passenger side, caliper up front just looks goofy. Real goofy. Anyways, left and right, this, that, whatever. So, the other part is we took the rotor for the back. So you see the rotor for the back. We put the caliper on the rotor and then put it on the axle, which that's a set of axles, but it's not the set of axles for this. So that way we can see if the back of the rim clears the caliper, because bear, the caliper thickness to the front, I could never do that again. So the caliper thickness to the front, if you look at this, real thick to the front. So everything was supposed to be ordered with the wheel, with the rotor, you know, 2.5 inch offset, whatever, this, that. So the back of the wheel hit the front of the caliper. So it's about a 1/2 inch difference. Bear, Brembo, shit like that, whatever, they're just so thick to the front. It causes that problem with a short offset rotor. So then we're like, okay, we could change the hat to a deeper hat, but then that would push the caliper back more, the rotor back more, and the caliper would need to be shimmed then. So on the back setup, you got the backing plate right here, and then the caliper bracket. So with this going on there, then this would have to sit back more. So if you add the 1/2 inch to the hat, this, that, whatever. So basically what I'm gonna do is we're gonna narrow the rear end a 1/2 inch more than my original number. The axles are a 9 inch end, housing end, 9 inch bearing, bolt-in style. So this axle end won't be on there no more. The Mosier 9 inch end, housing end will be on there. That gives you the bigger bearing, gives you 2 seals. So when I cut all this off, I should be able to cut it all the way there. And then the bracket for the 9 inch end goes on there, but I gotta mock everything up. The axles should have extra spline on there, but even to just take off a 1/2 inch of spline, they come with, I think, 2.5 inches spline. So we'll be able to just cut off a 1/2 inch off the axles, because, you know, with the 9 inch end, the axle is now a bolt-in axle rear end. But yeah, so what I'm saying is the caliper, because of the back of the rim, the spokes are so close, rotor, axle, caliper on here, the caliper was hitting here before the wheel was all the way on, about a 1/2 inch. So yeah, if you had more pad on the wheel, but then the wheel would stick out more, so you would have to narrow more. But we need to narrow more in order to add a 1/2 inch of spacing here. So that's how we're gonna get it. We got 3 inch, 1/2 inch screw and studs, and we'll use All-Star 1/2 inch spacer. Ooh, it snuck up on me. That was a sneeze, y'all. That was a sneeze. So we're thrashing on this Chevelle. You notice I'm not saying I, me, because we're working on this car together. just trying to get it done, but we're making sure we're double checking and triple checking everything. As we were doing this, we misplaced some bolts here and there, blah, blah, and we had to dig through stuff to find them. Some washers, some certain stuff like that, but I am going to mock up these brakes right now. Mock up meaning I'm gonna bolt it all on there. No anti-seize or no Loctite or nothing like that yet. Bolt it all on, make sure everything lines up, and then just, you know, take it back apart, put it back together, Loctite everything, because you got the two main bolts that go here with the steering arm. So, you know, these cars, steering arm goes on there. This one's actually moving along pretty good. And it's cold. I mean, it's not too bad. Let's see. I think it's actually colder in here today. That says 47. I haven't even checked the outside temperature, but no wind outside. Outside feels good, but I haven't checked it to see what it is. It's gotta be probably right around there. I think that thermostat, like I said, is off a couple of degrees. Let's see on the side of this. This is saying 52 in here. Or, well, it's set at 52, and it's saying it's, what, 48? 48 in here. So, I think today's high is 53 out here where I'm at. As for the Cutlass, I got the trans mount from Amazon. So, it's the adjustable or whatever. I got this for the Cutlass because I have the cross member. I have the cross member and everything in there. You guys have seen on the other video, but whichever video will come out sooner. So, ladder bar cross member, the side rails are in there, the trans cross member, and then I gotta set the mount up on there and then do the circles for the trans cross member. For the exhaust. Oh, my fat ass trying to get up. So yeah. So the Chevelle is moving right along. As you guys can see, it's a very, very, very clean car. Restored 10, 15 years ago, but it is pretty, real pretty. The back coilovers for this car are a C217, which are a shorter coilover setup that I use on the A-bodies, because the A-bodies are real tight in the back. The spring we got for this one is a 10 DP 250, and then the super drop box is, when you put the cross brace in this car, you've got to keep it as far back, and then I got long tabs and short tabs for the upper coilovers to get it to sit exactly where I want that coilover to sit. Then, you know, tack them on, this and that, whatever. So, I mean, the orange Chevelle, the mustard colored Chevelle, I got them to tuck pretty good. Well, the mustard color Chevelle hardtop, that one was a 22 on the back, and he didn't want it to set all the way down. So it set pretty good though. But this one being 24, obviously the difference between the 24 to the 22, 2-inch difference. So it would, just by bolting on the wheel would set up in the wheel well an inch more. So you know what I'm saying, from there, so the wheel would sit up an inch more, which would, you know, tuck more. So then I can go down. So I mean, it's gonna tuck. It's gonna tuck. We'll probably have this one sitting kind of level, and if you want the front up a little bit, we'll set the front up a little bit, but we're gonna set it all up. So it's gonna be nicer tomorrow outside. Friday, today's Thursday. It'll be nicer tomorrow outside, Friday and Saturday and Sunday. So we're gonna try to just bust it out. Waiting for the axles. The axles we thought were getting shipped to him, but they're getting shipped to me. Drop shipped, whatever you want to call it, from Moser and Boom. So they're supposed to be en route, so they should show up today. I know FedEx, UPS, whatever normally shows up out here between 12 and 3, 12 and 4, so, and it's about fucking 12 right now, noon, obviously. But yeah, that's where we're at. We already got the upper arms on, so tag these bolts in because these are aftermarket bolts. They're still splined on the shoulder, but when we started to take them off, they had been taken off before or whatever. So they started spinning. You know, we couldn't just get the nut side off. This side started spinning. So we had to use the impact, get it all the way off, put it together. The driver's side had to come off anyways because it was hitting the steering shaft. So we got those on there, boom. I'm gonna weld this in right there and just put a nice 1/4 inch wide or 1/2 inch wide, but get the bolt head in there. These bolts will never have to come off again. If you had to take the left one off, driver's side one off, you would just have to disconnect the steering shaft and then get the arm off, but it won't need it. These are the street arms, so they're not Pro Touring. The only difference between the street arms, nobody really explains this. QA1, Pro Touring, and street, the only difference is the ball joint shaft. Pro Touring has a 1 inch longer ball joint shaft, which you can change right here. So if you end up with a set of street arms and you need the longer ball joint, you can't get your alignment and the car's turned up and the wheels are leaned in, you can't get it out more, then you change the ball joint shaft. And if you buy the kit, you get the 2 ball joint shafts with the tool to take this apart. That's the only difference. There's no difference between a Pro Touring lower arm and a street lower arm. No difference. And if they try to say, you know what, I take it back. There might be one that has a little bit longer ball joint, but then again, that longer ball joint on the bottom, I think we might have dealt with it before, would push the spindle up more, which would make the car sit a little lower. So you want this to be, you know, regular. You want it down. This we want taller for bigger rims and stuff like that to get the car to set up more. But this is a street arm, short ball joint change, boom. This car's fine. G-bodies. So, well, on G-bodies, some of them I've used a longer ball joint, and some of them I didn't have to use a longer ball joint. So, I guess that comes into play with the offset of a front rim, and you want to go up higher to clear more, you want to go lower, blah, blah. Anyways, probably look too much right there. Yeah, so this was all cleaned up, but now I got this big ass mess. All the tools are greased up. I guess that's the word. I still got to finish this 12 bolt. But I'm waiting on a measurement from his coilover. I mean, I could still get all this shit cleaned up, cut off, this and that. I'm still waiting on, because the car already had coilovers in it, so the coilover span on the top of the frame. I need that number in the center so that way I can put the drop boxes on there and make the coilovers in the same spot as that, from the rear end to the upper cross brace. Yeah. So yeah, you seen that big ass caliper? It's got the big ass calipers for the back. Damn near the same size as that. You got the big ass rotors. I think the backs are 15s and the fronts are 16s. Big ass brakes. Oh yeah. All right, y'all. I'm gonna get back to it. I'm gonna get these brakes on the front and then show you guys all that stuff. Got that up. Be right back. And there it is. The front. Got them big ass brakes on there. Everything's tightened up. Everything's locked, tightened up. Don't worry about them lug nuts. They're getting different lug nuts. Everything's on there. Steering arms and all that stuff coming later. About to set it down on the alignment plates so we can figure out the height. We can set the height on the front. We bolted everything in, so it's gonna be a little tight to get to the adjustment. And yes, I'm gonna put a little bit of anti-seize on there, just a little bit, because we ain't going all the way up to the top of the skyscraper with that shit, you know what I'm saying? Brake lines are on, brakes are bled, no leaky. Yeah. Moving right along, we got the axles today and the housing in, so this is what I'm talking about. This is the 9-inch housing in, so now it's going to be a bolt-in axle. But you get this big badass bearing, and then the outside of the axle is way bigger where the bearing goes, and then it's sealed bearing with the O-ring. Make sure you put anti-seize on there when you slide them in. Make sure you don't pinch this edge right here, sliding into the housing in. Got that 30 on there because he's a 30. 30's blind. And like I said, we got the whole gear set up in here. True track, bearing kit, gear. I believe it's a 389 gear. But yeah, got a mess in here, tripping over everything. But time to set it down and adjust this front. You can align it, set height, then align it, and start working on the back now that we have everything for that. So bet that up. Be right back. See that trick chassis sign over there? Yes, sir. Bet it up. All right, there it is. First time setting it down, but you can see that it is slammed. So both coilovers right now are only up maybe a quarter of an inch. So now when I take it up, I'm gonna put probably, it's surprising that a 550 spring on this car, and it's a small block Chevy, you know, steel head, steel, blah, blah. Got aluminum intake on it, but to be that heavy. So like I said, a G body, you set it down with a small block Chevy in it with steel heads, and it really don't drop that far with a 550 spring. So you only gotta go up maybe a little bit for 24. So this one, you can see how I turn it up. So I'm gonna start with probably like an inch and a half of gap in between the lock plate and the adjustment collar. So I'll go ahead and put a little bit of anti-seize on the collar right now. So that way, as I screw it up, it'll catch the anti-seize, and then boom, it'll bring the anti-seize up with the threads instead of caking the whole damn shock full of anti-seize. And then the dirt picks up, it goes all on the anti-seize. So then a couple weeks later driving, all the dirt is stuck to the anti-seize because you can't get in there and clean it off. So just a little bit, but it's just stuffed. I'll probably try an inch first, but we'll see. Take it back up, adjust it, get back on it. All right, y'all. Everything is set in the front. Height is set, ended up being an inch and a half. The only thing that we gotta do is lock the lock plate on the coilover. Alignment's done in and out. Again, he's getting other tie rods and stuff like that later. That stuff's new. It's just, you know, I got a couple miles on it, whatever. We got the rear end. Axles out, centers out. Got everything mapped out. Got this side cut off, and like I was saying, to cut all that off in one shot. Right there, bro. There was no sense in taking off the vacuum plate and all that. That's all junk. We're not using that housing in. We got the 9-inch ends going on there. We mocked this up, slid it up in here to figure out how much clearance we have with the rotor to the frame. We got plenty of clearance there, and we have to go another 1/2 inch due to the spacing that it needs to clear the caliper to the back of the wheel. So, lower control is off, out the way. I left my light up here, didn't plug it in, so that's gonna suck because I need it right now. I gotta get this cut off, this all cut off, cleaned up. Gotta get it cut up there, get the cross brace up in there. So, get it all tacked together, figure out how far I gotta clock the end to see if the caliper clears the frame. So I'll get the caliper. The caliper's probably gonna end up, because it's a big ass caliper, probably gonna end up down here in the back. Well, yeah, got a mess going on. Thrashing, trying to get it done, in and out. Gonna be a high of 64 today. It's already like 55 or something. So here in the next hour or so, have the door open. But yeah, it's looking good, coming along good. Gotta plug my light in. Yeah, bet that up. I'll get a little more done and get some more footage for y'all. Be right back. Bet it up. I'm back, y'all. Got the ends welded on there. 3.5 inches, no, 4 inches shorter from stock width. Got the box tacked on there. I still gotta cut the upper stuff out, but that's where the box is gonna go. The distance of that rear end right now is from basically here to there to the center, 15 3/4. Wheel is 24 inches, or is it 24? So overall is 30. So 15, boom. So that leaves a 3/4 gap right here. So there's plenty of adjustment, this and that. But I needed to get this on first. Now I'll put the other one on. 5 1/8 from the end here and to the center. Makes the center of this 36 side to side. And the center of that, the lower control arms is 36 too. So then with up in here, I had to make sure the shock had plenty of room for me to get to the tabs. So mocked it up, put it there, bam. The housing, you can see right here, this one's a little off, but with the bar in there, that's a true straight line. So this one's not off up and down, this one's off. This tube bent forward a little bit. This tube over here is down and forward. But you'll see that, I mean, it's a 1972, so 72, all them years, with the axle, you know, the axle tube being so long, and bumps, and up and down, and weight, shit flexes. So, that's why you gotta have an aero bar. Coilovers for the back, like I said, are C217, which is a shorter coilover because it's real tight in there. So this is a C217. I think this center bolt to center bolt is like 15 or 14 and a half, something like that. 250 spring, so this spring is squished down probably about 2.5 inches. So making sure we can get that wheel to tuck up in there. A lot of clearances. So I'm gonna get the other box tacked on and get those fully welded on. Yes, the end is clocked that far because the caliper is so big. How the caliper go? Back in the box. We got a mess. We got a mess in here, y'all. Anyways, the caliper's so big, it's got to be clocked down. And then the backing plate has 3 different bolt spots that you can bolt the caliper bracket to. Oh, here it is. There's that big ass caliper. So then this backing plate. So this will be for this side, the driver's side. So that's pretty low, but I mean, we need to clear. Look at how much, we don't have shit for room there. So this has still got the rear end still has to go up in the car. It's at 16.5, so it's still got to go up in the car to tuck probably 4 or 5 inches. So then I put the top of that bracket closer to the rear end, because this way the caliper would be into the frame. All right, I got a phone call I got to take. Let me take that real fast. You see that? Got that up. Okay. Like I said, the front is done. Done. Height is set, brakes and butt, all that. Wheels are back off. It took them to change the tires. The tire was that small tire. What is it, the 255/25? Now he's putting 255/30 on there because it was real small on there. Extra skinny. So, the back. Super drop boxes are totally welded on there. The under brakes is totally welded on there. Yeah, big nasty booger weld from the housing. I had to get it nice and hot because it's cast. The cross brakes is up in there. The coilovers are all set up. We painted the cross brakes already. I changed the uppers. I'm about to press the bearings and everything on the center section for the new True Track Center 389 gear. So I gotta set all that up. We'll hold set the coilovers back in it so it holds the rear end, and do the anti-roll. So a couple more hours here, we should be good to go. I feel like shit. My ankle hurts. But you know me, I'm always crying about something. Big ass brakes. A little bit cleaner than the big ass mess we had in here. But yeah, alright y'all. That's it for now. Let me get a couple more things bolted up and show you all that. The rear end, we originally went 3.5 inches narrow. 3.5 inches, so we ended up going 4 inches because we had to run a 1/2 inch spacer, like I said, for the caliper to clear the back of the rim because of the offset bearing radius. That happens. A lot of people. So you got to over narrow, because the other way to fix it would be a bigger hat, and you got to space the caliper bracket, this, that, whatever. So you're already narrow, and might as well narrow bolt and axle. We got plenty of splines. And I already have to take a 1/2 inch off. So I'm gonna take a 1/2 inch off first, which is a cutoff wheel, and test fit it in there and see how it goes to the center of the center section. But I gotta get the center section all set up in there first. So I gotta press the bearings and everything on. Like I said, True Track bearing kit. Well, this is a shim kit. Bearing kit. You got your center section bearings, carrier bearings. You got your pinion inside bearing. You got your pinion, well, front and back, whatever. Loctite, grease. All right, so we'll get to cracking on that. Clean the press off. But yeah, all right, y'all. I'll be back. Bet it up. Check it out, y'all. Change the front tire from the 255/25 to 255/30. The back, we're gonna get it to go lower, but it's gonna get sounds and all that stuff in it. All the brakes are on there. The braces on there. We ran into a whole bunch of problems with little stupid shit. The gap on the front. Suspension now is 2 inch.
Hey man, you can't drive.
It ain't been running in a couple days. Man, it's a small block. We was thrashing on it, man. Thrashing. That's the first pullout. We're gonna get some better footage of it. Add that up.